issues relating to conflict, peace, and security. I'm Reverend Father Robert Achiaga. Kene Obiezu is also here by my side in the studio. Good morning, Kene.
Good morning, Father Robert. Good morning, listeners.
We haven't seen in a while. I hope you're keeping well.
I am keeping well, Father. I'm really doing good.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Whether there is peace and security in our country, Nigeria, or not, largely depends on policies made by those in public offices. Interestingly, there are a number of voluntary activities that may be undertaken by citizens as matters of rights and duties of citizens for the aim of shaping public policies or determining the persons who make those policies. It is the exercise of these rights and duties that we call political participation. On Side by Side today, we shall focus on political participation and peace building in Nigeria. And the aim is so that you may see the importance of participation in politics to peace in Nigeria, and also understand how much or how you may participate rewardingly in the political culture of our country. We are joined by a very special guest who will work side by side with us today on this endeavor. His name is Honorable Chiedu Ude. He's a member of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, a politician and a media enthusiast. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Father Robert. Good morning, my dear brother, and good morning to the listeners.
All right, our guest will help us understand the political participation of Nigerians in peace building. But before then, we shall take a look at some side stories. Kenny?
Father, we followed a number of stories which we feel that it's in the best interest of our listeners to know. So we quickly begin with the headlines. Okay, the first headline we have here is Hunters kill 2 kidnappers, rescue victims in Kogi. This is from the Daily Post newspaper. Akwa Ibom community declares youth leader wanted over alleged terrorism. This is also from the Daily Post newspaper. FG confirms outbreak of swarm birds. This is from the Daily Trust newspaper. Affected states are Sokoto, Kebbi, and Zamfara State. 200,000 displaced Northeast residents yet to be repatriated. This is according to the Borno State Governor, Babagana Zulum, and it is from the Daily Trust newspaper. Nigeria's insecurity heightened by drug abuse. This is according to the commander of the National Enforcement Agency in Benue State, Esther Lami Musa, and this headline is coming from the Daily Trust newspaper. The Kogi State Commissioner of Police says that drug abuse is a push factor for crimes. This is called the Trust newspaper. Terrorists in Kaduna community ban political activity. The community in question is Birnin-Gwari local government area of Kaduna State, and the terrorists involved are Ansami terrorists. The Kogi State Commissioner of Police says that drug abuse is a push factor for crimes. This is from the Daily Trust newspaper. Thousands flee as bandits raid Zamfara community, kill 1. This is from the Punch newspaper. Banditry, mixed reactions as Zamfara okays arms for residents. This is from the Daily Trust newspaper. Self-defense, ban on firearms still in force. This is according to the Zamfara State Commissioner of Police, Ayuba Elkana, and he said it as a warning to Governor Matawale of Zamfara State. This is coming from the Punch newspaper. Kuka decries misuse of religion in Nigerian politics. This is coming from Punch newspaper. Again, from the Punch newspaper, we have FG spends 1.243 trillion naira monthly as fuel subsidy hits 600 naira per litre, according to operators. 165 naira per litre fuel price unrealistic, killing filling stations. This is according to the Deputy President of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, Mustafa, and it's coming from the Punch newspaper. HIV. Taraba conducts mass testing. 77 test positive. This is from the Punch newspaper. And finally, from the Punch newspaper, we have gunmen kill Edo, Kaduna Catholic priests, 2 others. That is it for our newspaper headlines.
Oh, thank you very much, Kene. So many headlines of interest on our side stories. We have this one of the very last that you read, talking about HIV and the Taraba State government conducting mass testing. It is appreciable that many people came out in response to this. You know, many people are afraid of going for HIV tests, you know, but that the government carried out this mass testing and people made themselves available to be tested to the point that over 77 tested positive is something good. People need to realize that HIV, which was once considered a killer disease, is not considered as such today. There are all kinds of drugs available to help people cope well with this virus and live their normal lives. Also, a lot of efforts have been put into addressing the stigmatization that accompanies this illness. And a lot of success has been registered, and that is why there are so many dispensaries for HIV drugs around, and people walk in confidently, collect their drugs, go away and live on these drugs. In fact, some people have managed their HIV condition so effectively, so successfully that at certain points they have to stay off these drugs, and they look very, very healthy. So our listeners, just understand that it is in your own interest, and also on a second moral level, the interest of people around you, for you to avail yourself of the opportunities available for you to test and know your status. That way you help yourself better, you live healthier, and then you help the people around you. But Dr. Chiedu, you have been around for quite some time. You've been involved in a lot of public for that consideration. What do you have to say about it?
Thank you, Father Robert. You have said most of the important silent points, because first things first, you look at somebody, the person looks so healthy, he or she doesn't know the status, and most times we attach that this HIV is always gotten through sexual. No, but it is wrong. It can be gotten through other ways. For example, you are sharing the same cutlery with somebody, and the person got caught, and then you collected it, and you too equally got caught. Razor blade pain. Like, for example, there was this hospital, I was there, the nurse just gave somebody an injection, and she wasn't even looking. And she was to put it there, and then she prayed herself. If the guy is the patient was HIV positive, automatically the nurse gets it. So we should be careful about that. And people knowing their status is of utmost importance. It doesn't cure, unlike before. There is no sickness all over the world that doesn't have solutions, or except what the imperial media people give to us. They tell us that we must die. You know, when nobody knew HIV was in vogue until the late 80s, or let's say 95, when they produced condoms, and they didn't want people. HIV has been existing, yes. Then they didn't. Nobody cares about it. But when condom was being produced and nobody is buying. They believe that it is only on sexual transmission that you can get HIV, and people rushed, one, to check their status, and two, to patronize them without their ungodly products. But it's of utmost importance. You need to know your health. That is why most people die here in Nigeria. It's like we don't care about our health. We care more about what we are going to eat, how we are going to struggle, how to make money. So it's for our own interest that you always go for checkup, proper checkup. Even though nothing is happening to you, check your BP. If nothing is happening to you, go and say you want to check up. Every normal human person should have at least 3 months checking your health, so that you will not just fall in and die. A lot of people, apart from the HIV/AIDS, there's hepatitis, which can be gotten through sex, and so there's one other diseases, even that is yet to be predicted. Imagine, okay, there's a caricature on the social media the last time that girl was alleged sleeping with a dog, and she's healthy, and somebody else may just see the girl and then take her home. So these are the things we must look at. If you're going to engage yourself in immoral acts, you should be very careful. Not all that glitters is gold. The government, I thank the government for making such time, bringing out people, their resources. Come and know your status. And now people have known their status, they are very careful. HIV does no longer kill people. There are a lot of drugs that will help you to remain healthy.
Okay, it is not just about HIV, but everybody should just try to have some medical checkup in order to be sure what exactly is happening within their systems. All right, let's move on to the other headline that says gunmen kill Edo Kaduna Catholic priests, 2 others, from the Punch newspaper. The killing of these 2 Catholic priests is just coming on the heels of many other attacks on churches and the killings of other priests. So for today, we shall place a call to the Chancellor of the Catholic Archdiocese of Kaduna, Reverend Father Christian Okewu Emmanuel, and speak with him about the attack which led to the death of one of the priests of that diocese. Hello, good morning, Father.
Good morning.
Welcome to Radio Maria. The program is Side by Side, and we would like to start by giving you our sympathies from Radio Maria over the loss of the very sad loss of one of your priests, Reverend Father Borogo. Please accept our condolences.
You are welcome.
So, Father, news broke Saturday evening of the attack that led to the death of Father Borogo, who is also the who was also the chairman of the Association of Catholic Priests of the Archdiocese of Abuja. It was indeed a sad news. Sometimes we don't like relying on media reports about things like this. So we are hoping that now that you have given us the opportunity to listen to you, we can get the facts of the matter. I would like to ask you, what really happened?
Actually, on that very day, I got a call from a priest, a fellow priest of this archdiocese, Reverend Father Joseph Awen. He called me sometime around 3 p.m. and told me that a lady called him to say she got a call from somebody using the phone of the late Father Vitus Bobo to say that they found his body lying dead. And they were just making random calls on numbers that they found on the phone to tell the people who pick that this has happened and this is what they have found. And as a result of that, Father Joseph Awen now called me to say this is what he heard. therefore advised me to also call Father Borogo's number, which I did. I called the number and immediately rang the other person on the other line, on the other side of the phone, answered and related the story to me. So that was what happened. And eventually, as we were talking, they asked me where I was calling from. In fact, they asked me which parish I was. And I felt that it was not necessary that I should inform them where I was at that time or where my parish is.
Yes.
For security reasons. But they misunderstood that to mean I was not ready to even show concern about the news they delivered to me. And then they switched off. So I got back to Father Wayne, and Father Wayne also called, and then they picked, and then they told him that they were going to contact the police. And they did, and that they were going to take the body to the St. Gerard's Catholic Hospital. So we went straight to St. Gerard's Catholic Hospital to wait for the police. After about 30 minutes, the police arrived and brought the corpse to the hospital. The doctor came and confirmed the body death, and they deposited the body in the mortuary. That was about the size of what happened that day. About how he died, he was shot twice, one on the neck and the other on his stomach, and then there was a machete cut on his hands, the right hand side of the right hand. Machete cut was evidently there, and then that was it.
It was quite gruesome, I must say. Let me also ask you, Father, in some situations like this, people are able to say there were signs, there were indications, maybe threats, maybe warnings that pointed to something like this happened. Did Father or members of his community, either in the Polytechnic or on the farm there, in the recent past, indicate that their father's life was insecure, there were threats to his life, or was there any indication this would happen?
Well, the indication, concerning indicators, of course, nobody living in Kaduna, especially the southern Kaduna part or Kaduna South part of the metropolis, would say that he is completely secured in Kaduna state of today. However, Father Vitus Borogo happened to be the Catholic chaplain of the Catholic chaplaincy of the Kidnap Polytechnic, and Kidnap Polytechnic has several campuses around the state, and he is in charge of all this. But particularly, he is staying in Kaduna North, local, virtually prone to this banditry. Although there are cases of kidnappings happening in Kaduna North, but Kaduna North is about one of the safest areas in Kaduna compared to other areas. However, this incident happened in Chukun local government, one of the local governments in the southern part of the metropolis. And Chukun local government has been, severally attacked. Here you find Maraban Rido.
Yes.
Maraban Rido has been severely attacked. That is where the kidnapping of the children from Baptist school took place. In fact, the Baptist school is very close to the prison farm. It's just around the same area, the same Kujama area.
Wow.
So, Father happened to go to that area from Kaduna North where he resides, where he was residing. He went to the Chukun local government area where the prison farm is located. And that was what happened. So, of course, talking about indicators, yes, there are indicators all over the place. It may not be visible, but it may just spring at you and take you by surprise. But probably Because sometimes you discover that these things don't happen during the day. They normally come to attack people during the night. And probably because the location may have been conceived as a government property, therefore it may be safe. The location of the farm is, like I said, is prison farm. That is the general name for the place where he was found dead.
Yes. I asked that question because priests have become particular targets of bandits, terrorists, gunmen in recent time. And if you check the profile of this development, seeing that father was killed on a farm, which is government property, it wasn't even in a church. You have already indicated that there were 2 gunshots, one to the stomach, one to the neck, and also a cut by probably a cutlass. It would seem as if this was a targeted operation. We didn't get news of other people being kidnapped or killed in this particular attack. That's why we're trying to find out whether there were indications that this would happen to father particularly. But I guess maybe I should move on to ask. You indicated that the police were notified. They helped in moving the body to the mortuary. So maybe what I should ask is, what really are the police doing? Have they issued any official statement or given any official information as to who the attackers would be, who these killers are? Some say bandits, others terrorists. Does the police have any relevant information in this regard?
Well, before I get to that, still about this, the indicators
Yes.
we talked about earlier. You see, sometimes you can just become a target. And probably that was not the first time father went to that place. And it is clear, one may presume, that with 100% or maybe 90% certainty, that he could have been a victim of a targeted operation, because they would have noticed his presence there on a few occasions, and would have also, through informants, gotten a clue about his identity and who he was before they made arrangements to carry out that attack, because it was in the afternoon. And although it is not in the middle of the state, it's not in the central area, it is, however, not in one of those remotest parts that have been prone to series of attacks.
Yes.
So it must have been a targeted operation executed to achieve the aim they have already, the aim of killing him or taking him captive, so that they can procure ransom from that. About the police having, whether they have done anything, or what are they doing, or whether they have given out any information, or they have gotten information about them. Seriously speaking, after seeing them come to deposit the corpse in the hospital, nothing has said. In this state, you don't even hear things like this. Often, most of the times you only hear when it is a large-scale murder of people, then the Commissioner for Security will issue a statement, sometimes capturing the figure of people who have been killed. So far, I have not come across any statement from the police, nor have I come across any statement from the Commissioner of Security in the state.
Yes, we understand that there is a lot of insecurity in Kaduna State, and very often much of it goes unreported, which means when the government takes interest in any occurrence of a breach of security, it must be just one among many. But would like to also know, you highlighted that generally there is a feeling of insecurity among most residents of Kaduna State. But just to give you this opportunity to speak more on that, if you would tell us what the general insecurity or security or what the general state of affairs is in Kaduna State?
Of course, Kaduna State has become the capital of insecurity in Nigeria today. And so many people have become victims. Recently, after the killings in Owo, the next Sunday we heard the killings of people in in Kajuru local government area. Kajuru local government area has become, one of the most critically hit local governments in the state. The people are being decimated almost on a daily basis. Our archdiocese has remote dinari. Remote dinari happens to be in Kajuru local government area. And then we have Kachia local government, and then Kachia dinari on that axis. And the priests especially in these rural parishes and rural dinaries no longer stay in their parishes. No one of them lives in the parish house anymore. All of them have to stay in safer areas, safer parts of the diocese, of the state, and then look after their parishes from there. They go, if there is any need, they go there, celebrate masses, celebrate the sacraments, and give messages, give instructions, and then leave. And that has been, for all, that has been the situation for most of us in the rural areas. No priest stays or lives there in the parishes. And generally also, there are people relocating. Even the sad thing about Kaduna State is that this thing is happening more around the southern Kaduna part, or the Kaduna southern part. There are people now who are relocating to safer areas. People who have built retirement, homes with retirement benefits, they can no longer stay in their own homes. They no longer work for government. They no longer do anything. The little they have acquired as benefits for working have over the years have been put into building. There are so many abandoned buildings because people no longer feel they can complete these homes to move into it. So you now have a situation where people, owners of houses, no longer living in them and renting houses in safer areas, going during the day to just stay briefly and then move towards the evening. They move away from that place towards the evening to safer areas. I happen to be also a parish priest of some outstations just around the Kaduna South area. And I can tell you that this is the case because my parishioners, some of them no longer stay within the area and have moved. They have moved, but they still come back. We no longer have masses in some of these areas. And that is January, since one attack that took place in December last year, where one Ekwa person was killed. A little boy of about 11 years was kidnapped. A medical doctor was taken, but all of them were released later. Again, their freedom later. But since after that incident, the people in Oil village no longer feel secured to stay there. And that is one of the areas where my house station is located. And so they stay outside the area and go back. But we still have Sunday masses, thanks be to God, but we no longer have weekday masses.
It's a very sad situation we're dealing with in Kaduna State here. Father, we're not going to keep you live here for too long. So at this point, I would like to once again give you our very sincere condolences from Radio Maria over the loss of Father Borogo. Understand that our hearts are with you. We continue to pray for and with you, and wish that all the efforts of government and the community and the church in regard of trying to stemming this tide of insecurity will be fruitful. Thank you very much for your time, Father.
You are welcome. Thank you.
So that was the Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Kaduna. He spoke with us about the killing of a Catholic priest in Kaduna State. He painted a rather sad picture, not just of the incident, but also of the state of insecurity in Kaduna State. Toward the end of that conversation, Dr. Chiedu, he touched on the disruptions that this insecurity is causing, especially in the southern part of Kaduna, mentioning that in terms of the missionary endeavor of the church, this has brought a disruption. Families are relocating from the more insecure place to the less insecure place. I don't want to say to the more secure places. And then it's about social disruption. And you can also imagine farming activities. Kaduna State is also part of Nigeria that produces a lot of food for the country. But this will also mean an economic disruption. And as we grapple with this, as we try to wrap our minds around all of this, there is also another incident that we need to pay attention to. The killing of another priest who was kidnapped yesterday and killed yesterday, this time around in Edo State. So we are going to also place out a call to the Director of Communications of Achiaga Diocese, Reverend Father Peter Egelewe, and we'll speak with him about the abduction and murder of one of the Catholic priests of their diocese, Reverend Father Christopher Odier. Hello, good morning, Father.
Good morning.
Thank you and welcome to Radio Maria. The show is Side by Side. Would like to begin by giving you our very sincere condolences from Radio Maria over the gruesome and sad killing of one of your priests, Reverend Father Christopher Odier. Please accept our condolences.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so news broke yesterday about the kidnap of Father Christopher Odier. Different variants of the story as to what exactly happened. But again, as we were praying and hoping he would be released by his abductors, news again reached us about his mother. Maybe we should begin by asking you to tell us in real time what exactly happened.
Yes, good morning once again. Thank you for condolence messages. What happened was that yesterday in St. Michael's Catholic Church, Father had Mass at 7 a.m. So, and as usual, the priest will normally prepare to go for Mass 30 minutes before the Mass. So between 6:30 and 6:40 a.m., he came down from his apartment, from the priest's rectory, came down to enter into his car to go to the parish, which is about 3 minutes drive from his house. So the parish house is not located within the church compound.
Okay.
It's about 3 to 5 minutes drive from his house. And so, so Father came out, and just to enter his car, 4 men accosted him with guns and held Father. So, and Father was asking them, "Who are you? What are you doing?" and all that. So in that little exchange of argument, the seminarian came out, who was also preparing to join Father in the car. And as soon as the seminarian saw what was going on, one of them brought out a machete and ran after the seminarian. And eventually the seminarian ran back into the house, locked the door, and started to make calls
Yes.
to the church community and to the people. So, and at the time he finished making the calls, they had already taken father into the bush.
Mm.
So immediately that happened, some of the youths ran into the bush, and we were even told that some of them could sight father being taken away
Okay.
and ran after him as in a bid to rescue him. But of course, the first set of youths who entered the bush were not armed, and so the kidnappers opened fire on them, injuring one of them who was immediately rushed to the hospital. And then the others continued. They were about 3 to 5 who initially followed, and then they opened fire again and killed one on the spot. So it was in the course of that firing that more youths and the vigilantes now organized themselves and went into the bush in search of father. So it was then, of course, with the police and the soldiers, the hunters, they mobilized, and there was a large number of people who entered the bush to search for father. And it was along that line they discovered the injured person, took the person to the hospital, and then discovered the corpse of the other youth that was killed, and they kept searching for father. So not too far, they now found the corpse of father and retrieved him. But unfortunately, the other person that was rushed to the hospital later died,
Mm.
and so the community, as it were, lost 3 persons yesterday, including the priest. So that was exactly what happened.
This is indeed sad. As you spoke of the seminarian who reached out to community members via phone, I was wondering whether efforts were also made to reach out to the police and enlist their help. Did the police get involved in this attempt to rescue father as he was being taken away?
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. As soon as the calls came on, and then there were a lot of contacts, and I think within a few hours, the police, as well as the soldiers and the vigilantes and hunters, mobilized into the forest. So it was a collective effort of both the security, including the army, the soldiers, and the security and the vigilantes and hunters who went to the bush. So the police was actively involved in the search.
It is possible that the kidnappers decided to kill father so that their escape would be made much easier, so that he would not be some drawback to them as they sought to escape. But I'm wondering, were efforts to apprehend these killers sustained after father's dead body was found?
Yes, and luckily for the group of persons, the hunters and the soldiers who were in the forest, about some persons were arrested. Some persons were arrested, and I think they were handed over to the security agencies. So we are still monitoring that to know how that issue is being tracked.
Based on some of the past arrests that have been made, I am especially happy to hear that you are monitoring developments around those who have been arrested. But I don't know whether there is already some information out there regarding the identity of these attackers. You know, in the Owo incident, we were all interested in the identity of those who attacked. And it's quite natural and important for us to want to ask, who are our attackers? So I don't know, is there any information in this regard?
Well, for now, what we know for sure is that there are no natives that were involved, those who were arrested, and all indications are pointing that they are Fulani-looking men. So I think at least from those that were arrested. So that exact identity of where they came from will eventually be established by the security agencies. But what we can say for now is that the attackers were definitely not natives of the place of Tabigo, and the facial appearance of the people looked more like the Fulani. So, but like I said, that exact identity will now be unraveled when the police concludes the investigation.
Yes, at the end of the investigation, we hope to know not just the identities of the attackers, but also the motive, if that is possible. Before calling you, we spoke with the Chancellor of the Catholic Archdiocese of Kaduna. They too lost a priest on Saturday at the hands of gunmen. Some are calling them terrorists. Whatever their identity is, we asked the Chancellor of Kaduna Archdiocese to tell us, give us a sense of what the security situation in Kaduna State is. And the picture he painted was quite scary, indicating that in many of the rural parishes, priests are not able to function ordinarily there. They have to stay in least insecure places, and when it is possible, enter the interior to pastor the community and go back. He also spoke of how communities are relocating, families are relocating based on this. So maybe I should also ask you, can you give us a sense of the general security or insecurity situation in Edo State, but maybe particularly this community where Father lived until he was sadly murdered?
Well, I think like all parts of Nigeria, there is serious insecurity around us. I think by statistics, we must have had, at least with this kidnap, I think we must have had between 6 and 10 priests who have been kidnapped in our diocese in the last 3 years.
3 years?
Yes. Beyond that is that priests who have been attacked, but unfortunately managed to escape, there are not less than another 8
Wow.
who were shot at while going to their workplace of work or their parishes or masses. At least in the last 2 years, not less than 8 priests have been shot at on the way to their work. So, in terms of security, very, very terrible in this part of my diocese. And not just that, even on the road. As I speak to you, yesterday I was speaking to the priest who is directly in charge of security in our diocese, and he told me that every day, at least there is one case of kidnap within our diocese here. At least one case in one part of the diocese. Every day reports come to his office of one person or more persons being kidnapped. So it's just a terrible situation that we find ourselves, that people are no longer free. And of course, you know that people are not able also to go to farms, which by implication is one of the reasons why there's so much hunger in the land, because those days when people could go to the farm, they are able to, even when they don't have money, they have food
Exactly.
in their homes.
Yes.
But today, people can't go to farm for fear of being attacked and killed. And so, people have to make do with the ones they can buy afford in the market, and where is the money to buy those things? So there's a lot of insecurity. Our priests and our church here under attack, but we continue to work knowing that Christ is the ultimate protection that we have. But if you say, are we working in a secure environment, the answer is definitely no.
The church has never worked in secure environment. It's the difference, I guess, is that the insecurity is getting worse and worse by the day. Once again, we condole with you and the whole of the Archdiocese of Auchi, and then the whole of Edo State over the loss of Father Christopher Odier. I am particularly touched by this because we were actually schoolmates. You know, we schooled in the same place, saw each other, belonged to the same groups, and so this one touches me quite closely. Thank you very much, Father, for making time to speak with us. Our prayers are with you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the good work.
So that was the Director of Social Communications of the Catholic Archdiocese of Auchi, Reverend Father Peter Ege Lewe. He spoke to us about the kidnap and murder of one of the priests of that Catholic diocese, Reverend Father Christopher Odier. We say that may their souls rest in peace. Dr. Chiedu, you can see I'm even struggling to speak. This is quite intense and emotional. When one of us is affected, when anybody is kidnapped, killed like this, we lose part of our humanity, don't we?
Yes, we do. Because the society wasn't meant to be like this. The society was meant to be, so good, so calm. But these are decisions to take on themselves. For example, you see, when the two fathers were talking, I was crying inside of me because I experienced that in 2011, post-election violence in Bauchi diocese. At least that was the first time coppers were killed. I saved a lot of them. So when, that one, we're all human beings, but the ones for the priests is even more appalling because they are going for their work. It was alleged that the coppers, helped Jonathan to rig Jonathan in, and they were the soft targets. Even our parishes were burnt there, I was there. So now, I want to thank the late father in Kaduna Archdiocese. One, he was very security conscious in the sense that he did not put password on his phone. That is something we must always do. Stop locking your phone, stop putting pins. Because without that, nobody could have opened father's phone to reach out to people.
Well, but sometimes people have very important things on their phones and they need to secure it so that even if terrible people lay their hands on it, they have I think there's actually a protocol on our cell phones that helps you to call emergency numbers.
Good.
So that even if your phone is locked, people can access those emergency numbers. People need to know about that and do it. But locking our phones, that is also a security measure.
No, let me tell you the fact. You know why locking your phone is not good to some extent? What document do you have? What are you hiding? Send it to your cloud. Send it to your email, no matter what it is. Send it there. It's more secure there.
And Doctor, even those who sell who market these phones, they advise you to. Some people work with banks. They have information. They receive all kinds of very sensitive information. So our phones will have a way of locking them. But you see, the technology is quite simple.
Exactly.
So there is something you can lock on your phone, and then there is something you can let open on your phone, and that should be your emergency contacts.
Good. That is what this priest did, and every one of us should do it. What about those moving, and then you are being surrendered, you are being robbed of that your so precious phones? What happened? They take it to where they repair phone and they flash it, and every other thing continues. So the priest was conscious about that. And I want to advise everybody, please be conscious about that too. In that emergency, put numbers that in case of incases that you might be reached. And make sure you teach your children and those around you, just in case. And so far, Nigeria is insecure. Wherever you are moving, let everybody know where you are going to.
Let me just add to that. What some people do is when they are on transit, at every turn they call a number. At every turn they call a number. So that when there is something, your phone is not locked, the last number you dialed, someone can call that number. And so the people you call while you're on transit should actually be your next of kin. People that can respond immediately, who know you, who can answer questions about you, just in case something happens.
Yes, it is of very, very necessary situation. And then in this country again, you see, CCTV cameras are is a very good use, but we can afford it. That's the situation we find ourselves in. Okay, they are talking about Kaduna. Yes, Kaduna is the most insecure place in Nigeria. Yet we have all the security apparatus in this country there, deposited there. So why are they not working? The reason is that those at the helm of affairs are not serious with security. And this same security is what they use to play on our minds before they came on board. CCTV cameras should be placed in every point of this country. And as well, I must tell our people, especially the parishioners of each parish, please, as far as possible, try to protect your priests and parishioners. Go back to you. My advice this morning too is help all the priests. Yeah, you have your security meetings in your parish. Work hand in hand with the police, and then protect yourselves from these people. And I'm a patron also of a man of order and discipline, MOD. And I tell them, when I come into church and see you, MOD, you're not agile, I punish you. You must be agile, your minds everywhere. You must be security conscious. You didn't come there to discuss. You must be security conscious. So in case something happens, you raise the alarm. Most people don't raise the alarm. They keep quiet, allow things to happen. And then they are the first to report it on Facebook. We should be conscious of that. When people need help, let us be there. And then
I guess the takeaway from there would be that in mosques, in churches, in Catholic churches, in parishes, in religious centers, we should also have some civilian part of those communities that is organized, that they are organized to handle the basic security needs of that place. When you mention man of order and discipline, you know, many of our listeners may not understand what you're talking about, but they are just youth, young people who come together. They have uniforms and they have belts. Because of their uniforms, they are able to control traffic, give order, basically. They don't carry guns, but at least they are able to make people behave the right way. Things like that can help. I think that's the message.
Yes, the message. And again, the most important is the natives of every community should take charge. Since the government has failed us, they should take charge of the security network in that place. Like in places like Achiaga, you know, the youths there have come and said, no more. We don't need that again. No more. In Kuje, and that place is also very sensitive. Across the hills there is they are camping. Most times I get angry with the security apparatus we have. They know these people, but they're handicapped. That is why we must change the narratives. I bleed each time I hear somebody is being kidnapped, somebody is being, you know, a lot of things like that. Even priests, I bleed a lot because we, as a human being, we are to protect each other. That is not what God even wants us to do. Even the Quran too doesn't permit us to do that. Then, what they always say is that because there is no job, we are hungry, you want to kidnap people. Must you go into crime to feed yourself? The answer is no. You mustn't go into crime to feed yourself. What you do is you do what you are meant to do. Mandatory kidnapping is a social vice, which should not even happen. Even those of us in police campaign against cultism and other vices, we go to schools, we teach the children, don't join cults. Why are you joining cult in the first place? They say, they want to be protected. Protected from what? From intimidation. So I said, you can't protect yourself against intimidation. Why not you prepare yourself? Who is going to intimidate you? There is a system that works. Nigerian system is crashing. We need somebody to go there and revive it. We, the youth, most youths have lost faith in this country. And that is why everybody are looking, you are traveling. If you go to immigration center, you see our youth, all of them queuing up to get their passport and leave this country. But I tell them, we will not leave this country for them. We must stay here and repair it. And then, even your enemies too, you must protect that your enemy no matter what. You are quarreling with somebody and you saw that person's life was in danger, you have to help that person. We must be security conscious. Anytime you are going henceforth, be security conscious. And like you said, making calls at any point you are going, and let your phone be on location. We can use that to track you where you are.
And I advise people to have multiple phones. Like me, I have all the networks in Nigeria. That if you call MTN, you can't get me. You call Glo, you can't get me. You call Etisalat, 9 Mobile, and you must get me on one. That is the system I learned when I was in Bauchi.
That's very important.
Yes, 3 networks will go off, and then 1 will remain.
All right. We will take a short break, and when we come back, we will continue our discussion, which will be focused on political participation and peace building. Please stay with us. Into side by side, and now political participation and peace building in earnest. Again, our guest is Honorable Chiedu Ude. Let's begin with some side facts on political participation. Kenny, what do you have for us?
Okay, here are some quick side facts on political participation in keeping with our topic for today. So, political participation includes a broad range of activities through which people develop and express their opinions on the world and how it is governed, and try to take part in and shape the decisions that affect their lives. Broadly speaking, there are 3 types of participation. We have the conventional participation, which includes activities that we expect of good citizens. We have the unconventional participation, which include activities that are legal but often considered inappropriate. We also have the illegal participation, which would cover activities that break the law. Some of the most common forms of political participation are voting, protest, public consultations. They also include signing a petition, writing a letter to a public official, blogging about a political issue, donating money to a cause, volunteering for a campaign, joining an activist or interest group, holding a public official position, occupying a building in an act of protest, committing a terrorist act, etc. As long as the activity involves ordinary citizens expressing their opinions by contributing to the political process, it is a form of political participation. Theoretically, in every country in which it is not forbidden, political participation should involve everyone. For example, even though a person has to be 18 years old to vote or serve on a jury, people under the age of 18 are still able to participate in protests, be part of town hall meetings, express their political belief.
That I also give kudos to those who are clocking 18 this year. Once you have clocked 18, it is your right. Don't get me wrong. Democratically, it is your right to vote, and it is also your right not to vote. You may decide not to vote because we are in a democratic setting. So, the registration, I want to applaud our people for coming up.
Just in case our listeners want to draw or wholly imperatives from what you say. Yes, theoretically, legally, it is your right to vote, and it is also your right not to vote. But morally speaking, don't give yourself the right not to vote.
Exactly.
I wouldn't even call that a right.
No.
So let's say we all have the right to vote.
Yes.
Let us not even concede that there is a right not to vote. Continue.
Why I had to bring that is that there's an agitation that we may vote or we may not want to vote, but like now where Nigeria is going, because it is part of those who refuse to vote. Do you know how many million Nigeria voted last election?
About 82. No, 82 registered. About
Yes. No, I mean, last election.
yes, about last elections we had about 20.
9 million.
Yes.
That voted.
Yes,
That was divided with the two major political parties.
Yeah.
Where is the other, let's say, 51 million people who they registered but they refused to vote?
Well, the question really is this. There is an ongoing voter registration exercise. What is your impression about the exercise so far?
The impression is this. I can say I am well pleased because we are now becoming politically participants. We have not become political participants. We want to